You've seen Middle-earth on screen, now let us show you the real thing. Join us on an unforgettable journey deep into New Zealand's Southland, where cinematic legend meets wild, untouched landscapes. On this epic quest, we uncover some of the most iconic filming locations and tales from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, such as the legendary story of an actor breaking bones for the perfect shot. We end our journey saying farewell like Frodo and Sam departing during the breaking of the Fellowship. This is just a glimpse into our full-day Mavora Lakes Middle-earth adventure tour, with even more stories, hidden gems, and exclusive stops on the full experience. Details in the description. Leaving Queenstown behind, we set off on a spectacular drive into the Southland region. Our first stop, the jaw-dropping beauty of Lake Manapouri.
So welcome to Lake Manapouri. This beautiful lake here is actually the second deepest lake in New Zealand at 404 meters deep. The lake itself was carved out by glacial ice coming down from these mountains during the last ice age. The deepest lake in New Zealand actually sits on the other side of these hills here called Lake Horoko. And the third deepest lake in New Zealand we're going to visit in Lake Tiano. So 1, 2, 3 deepest lakes in New Zealand next to each other. Pretty cool. Here in the background we've got the Fiordland National Park, which is 12,607 square kilometers of beautiful untouched wilderness area. It makes up 5% of New Zealand's landmass. It is the largest national park by a long shot in New Zealand, and it connects on to 3 other national parks, being the Mount Aspiring National Park, which you would have seen down in Glenorchy Paradise, where they filmed Isengard and Lothlorien and parts of Amon. Also the Westland National Park and the Aoraki National Park, which is New Zealand's highest mountain. So all of that area, known by the Maori people as Te Waipunamu, the place of greenstone, actually covers a space of 2.5 million hectares. It's huge, massive. 10% of New Zealand's landmass are these interconnected national parks. Now, they filmed a lot of Lord of the Rings stuff in and around this area, and we're about to go visit some actual filming locations very shortly. We're mainly down here to actually get some nice photographs because it's a beautiful spot and it's a beautiful day. Up over these hills, they shot a very, very short sequence of the Fellowship leaving the south of Rivendell. So there's a bit of a compilation shot once they leave Rivendell and the Fellowship has formed, and you can hear the fantastic Fellowship theme song that we played at the start of the tour, hiking up over the top of that hill. There's a very, very short sequence. And the cast and crew were helicoptered up there, I should add as well. They actually helicoptered the cast and crew to the top of the hill just to hike up there and do the dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Officially in the Fiordland National Park right now, and as I was mentioning before, this is the world's largest expanse of Gondwanaland type rainforest. So the trees we see around us here, they existed during the time when all the southern continents of the globe were interconnected. Welcome to the Waio River, or should I say the Great River Anduin. Now, the Great River Anduin in the books is an 11-day journey. Tolkien describes it as the journey from when the Fellowship leave Lothlorien in their elven boats. They've been given those wooden elven boats, and they make their way to the top of the falls of Rauros on a beautiful lake known as Hithoel, which we are going to see today in the Mavora Lakes. But along the journey, they actually travel through the landscapes of Middle-earth over that 11-day period, and Peter Jackson chooses to shoot it in a way where they use different landscapes of New Zealand to actually complete that river. So there are actually 4 separate rivers that they use for the landscapes or the riverscapes of the Anduin River. This one here was the most used area. So we've seen the Pillar of the Kings where the final sequence took place down in the Kawerau Gorge. This one here, if you see the Fellowship rolling through their canoes going right down through the river rapids, they were actually just going right down through here. Just to give you a bit of an idea of where we're standing right now, you can see these embankments here. That's the cliffs that we are. So we're actually standing right up over here to give you guys a bit of an idea. And then you can also see some of these mountains in the background. See that mountain over there?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, there's the peak of it right there. So this is an aerial shot, slightly different angle. And this is a little further down on the river. saying, they shot a lot of the aerial shots from down here. So here's a typical aerial shot of what the wetlands look like when there is quite a lot of water in there. These are little shrub pines that I was talking about before, the Helicopus bidwillie, which I'll show you guys a little bit of when we leave Tiano today. We'll see some of those on the side of the road. Obviously in the background there, we have not got the Fiordland National Park there. Just to show you, parts of this is actually coming from the Remarkables when they're superimposing it as well. So they are overlaying them with other mountains. And this is what you call a digital map painting in the background here. So using real life locations, like you can see those are actually parts of the Remarkables right there, intertwined with fake locations as well.
As an added bonus, this video includes a few special locations not usually part of our standard itinerary, but may be customized on a private tour.
So we're just outside of Tiano and we've scattered out a Lord of the Rings location that we haven't previously visited before. It's known as the Midgewater Marshes. So this is where Aragorn is leading the hobbits in Fellowship of the Ring on their way to Rivendell. Pippin asks the question, what about breakfast? Aragorn responds, you've already had it. And he goes, yes, we've had one, but what about second breakfast? So that's the famous line that was shot here. So it was here in these wetlands, you can actually line up some of these mountains and that field there in the backdrop, and it was covered in snow for the scene. They actually had a freak snowstorm come down the day that they were filming down here, and it snowed so heavy that they actually had to stop their filming midway through, but they had all these little boardwalks and stuff through here, which you can see on the behind the scenes. Towers right now. Merry and Pippin have been captured by the Uruk-hai, and they're led to a spot where a camp is set up. Now, the Uruk-hai themselves start to get into a little bit of a scuffle between them and the orcs. One of the Uruk-hai looks out and says, we haven't had anything but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days. And then another orc, who is played by Jed Brophy, we spoke about before, he says, what about them? They're fresh. And then another one says they don't need their legs, and of course they're referring to the hobbits. Interestingly enough, the voices of those goblins were actually Andy Serkis, who plays Gollum. So Andy does the voiceovers, Jed does the acting, which is kind of cool.
Very cool.
And then, of course, Merry and Pippin make a getaway. They head out towards Fangorn Forest.
We haven't had anything but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days.
What about them? They're fresh.
They are not for eating.
What about their legs? They don't need them.
Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, they come across the Rohirrim, and the Rohirrim mention about the battle that takes place. So after the Uruk-hai and the orcs have the fight, the Rohirrim come through and they pretty much slaughter everyone. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli come up to investigate. So they literally ride up through that hill right there. That's where they're coming up, right through here. So we are standing right now, just to give you an idea, right here. Okay, pretty much where the smoke's coming from. I just love this one right here as well. So that's your shot there of the Uruk-hai head on the stick.
So sick. Wow.
Aragorn and Legolas there. Those mountains. You can see the tree lines roughly the same as where it is right there. This is the classic Lord of the Rings story that nobody can watch the films without mentioning. Basically, Peter Jackson's up here directing the scene. We've got Viggo Mortensen right over there. And they were doing this kicking the helmet thing, and what Peter was finding with each subsequent take is the helmet was actually getting closer and closer to the camera. And he had an idea. He goes, wouldn't it be really cool if you actually hit the camera? He's like, just give it your all. So they were up to 4 takes at this point. They'd done 4 takes. And on the 5th take, Viggo Mortensen runs up, kicks it as hard as he can. He kicks it so hard and lets out this dramatic scream, something he hadn't done before in the previous takes. And Peter was taken away by it. He said that this is the most amazing take he had seen. He said, that's a wrap, let's do it. I don't want one more take, that's amazing. Apparently he didn't realize that Viggo Mortensen was over in the corner getting some medical attention, because Viggo had just fractured 2 toes kicking that helmet, and the scream that he let out was such a significant scream of pain, Peter Jackson was so impressed by it, he left it in the films. Okay, so after wandering into Fangorn Forest, Aragorn and Gimli come across Gandalf the White. They're led through Fangorn Forest, they've got an important mission, and they make their way out here to this part of the fields, the plains of Rohan. Funnily enough, it's the exact same place where they entered, but in the films it looks like somewhere completely different because you're facing a completely different way. But this is where Gandalf whistles to Shadowfax, his horse there. You can see that mountain right in the background right there. And these are the hills that Shadowfax rides straight up over. One of the mirrors.
Shadowfax, the lord of all horses, has been my friend for an age.
Just in this section here where our kayaker over there is making his way down the beautiful Mavora River, is where they shot the scenes of the Silverlode River. It was after they left Lothlorien, they'd been gifted the elven boats by Galadriel, and they're making their way down to the Anduin River. And they start off with some really slow, calm waters. There's actually a conversation between Legolas and Gimli, and they're talking about what gifts they were received. They're reflecting back on the gifts that Galadriel and Celeborn had gifted them. Legolas asked Gimli what Galadriel gifted him. So, do you guys remember what Galadriel gifted Gimli?
3 golden hairs.
Yeah. He asked for 1, actually, and she gifted him 3, which is pretty cool.
For 1.
So that was right here, and I'm going to show you guys some cards right now. The shot that I'm going to show you is taken from just around that bend there, looking back this way. So in order to see the mountains in the backdrop, we have to be looking this way, but you have to imagine the trees from there. So you can see that mountain there? Right up there.
Ah, yes.
When they came here to shoot in the Mavora Lakes area, this was in the springtime. We still had a lot of that winter snow up on the top of the hills up there, but exact same mountains, and that was shot right down through here. The journey of our fellowship, Silverlode River, Anduin River, and then of course they arrive here to a place known as Hithoel, which is Sindarin for the Lake of Cool Mist Quarters at the top of the Falls of Ralros. Now in the films, the Falls of Ralros are depicted as being right at the end of this lake. In reality, they're right here. This is one of the shots of the films when the Fellowship first arrive here, okay? So obviously they've done a fair bit of CGI and what I was mentioning before, the matte painting in the background there to make it look as though. And you can see also the top of these hills up here, they've changed, they've made them look a little more rocky. We're on this foreshore right here, right now, to give you a bit of an idea. When they arrive here, this is where the Fellowship set up camp, and in the film you can see all of these sort of ruins along the edge of the lake, right where we are, exactly right here. The idea is they made these out of styrofoam, and they wanted it to look like you're uncovering this old ancient empire, like uncovering Mesopotamia or something like that. So they wanted to make them all look very old and worn down. And then you arrive there, and this is supposed to be of the people of Numenor, you know, so going back in Middle-earth's history to the Second Age. But they set up camp. Boromir goes to look for some wood, and it's around the same time that Frodo goes missing. So a little bit of a coincidence, and we're all a little suspicious about Boromir at this point. Let's go in the forest. So breathe in that air, as I was saying before, this is some of the cleanest air in the world. Okay, so the next part of the scene, Frodo goes to the top of Amon Hen. Amon Hen is actually another Sindarin world, so it means the peak of seeing. Amon is essentially the top of a hill. From there, he sees Aragorn after seeing the Eye of Sauron and slipping off the temple. He puts Aragorn to the test and says, "Would you have taken it from me?" And Aragorn closes his hand and says, "I would have followed you to the end." You know, fantastic scene. Aragorn tells Frodo to flee because he can sense the oncoming Uruk-hai, sees the glow of Sting. Frodo flees, and he fights those Uruk-hai on top of the hill. Frodo makes his way down here, and the very next stop, you see Frodo parked up behind a tree. So Frodo has made his getaway and he makes his way down to the shore of the lake. And he ponders the journey ahead. He knows he has to undertake it alone. And he knows it's going to be a difficult task. And he has a reflection of a memory, the conversation he had with Gandalf. Wish the ring never came to me, Gandalf. And then Gandalf says, so do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. What we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. This is the exact tree Elijah Wood is standing right in front of during that scene. Right there, while he's holding the ring in his hands, pondering that journey ahead. Right here on the edge of the lake in Hithoel.
I wish the ring had never come to me, Gandalf.
So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. What we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
So he makes his way down into his elven boat. Samwise Gamgee, of course, is following him, his best friend. Mr. Frodo! Sam! I'm going to Mordor alone! Of course you are, Mr. Frodo, and I'm coming too! Sam! You can't swim! And of course Sam can't swim, we all know that. Runs in there. It's very shallow right here, by the way, guys. If you just ran out there, you'd probably have to walk 50 meters or so before it gets deep enough. It'll start to drop off. One of my favorite lines of the films, a real climax of the films is like, I made a promise, Mr. Frodo. A promise. Don't you leave him, Samwise Gamgee. And I don't want to. When they filmed that scene, there's actually quite a story that goes along with it. So Sean Astin, who plays Samwise Gamgee, he was running into this ice-cold water. As we know, it was springtime, so we had a lot of that snow and glacial melt coming down, and the lake would have been much, much colder than it is right now. So between every single take, they had to come back in, and they had to get the hairdryer and heaters that were pretty much done up in an electric generator or a petrol generator, fuel generator, and they were drying him off between takes with all that equipment. He kept running back and forth, running in, and of course we all know Peter Jackson is a perfectionist, so he's doing multiple takes in and out until he hit what was his final take, and he didn't have a choice but to bow out after that point. You see, Sean Astin ran into the lake and then stopped, and everyone said, hey, Sean, what's up? And he turned around slowly and started to limp out. Now, Sean Astin actually trod on a huge piece of glass. They'd actually come through and scoured the bottom of the lake to make sure there was no debris in there, and this is a pretty clean lake. I've never seen even rubbish here, let alone a piece of glass, but somehow Sean Astin's foot found that glass and those flimsy latex hobbit feet. They didn't really do much to protect him, so he came back in. So at the end of the first film, Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn together, and they talk about how the journey has been in vain. The hobbits got away, taken away by the Uruk-hai, and Aragorn says, we'll not let the hobbits Merry and Pippin suffer to torment and torture. He said, we pack light, let's hunt some orcs. Where he says that line, if we come around here, directly in front of this tree here, you can see the branch right there. So this is the exact spot where they filmed that sequence as well.
So not lightly abandon Merry and Pippin to torment death. Leave all behind that you can. We travel light. Let's hunt some orc.
One of the standout highlights on every tour, guests can safely pose with a premium collection of authentically licensed limited edition replica props. The photos and videos you capture range from cinematic and heroic to downright hilarious, all set against one of the most breathtaking backdrops in Middle-earth. The journey back to Queenstown is just as epic, with more incredible scenery along the way. Use the promo code included in the description so you can save on your own adventure. Come and join our fellowship.